It was my birthday yesterday.
Oh, okay. Happy birthday. Look, my wife's is next. Is it a week from? God, it's Tuesday.
You know how old I am? I'm this many.
You're 55?
58.
58. Yeah, you get there. My
old.
sister's going to be 60.
Wow.
I'll be 66 in a few months.
I'm going to pass yet pretty soon. Okay, here we go.
All right.
Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Bruce McGowan, longtime sports radio personality. Now, today's show is going to be fun. Who's our special guest today?
Well, we're going to talk some baseball with Giants general manager Bobby Evans and kind of get a feel as to what is happening with free agency and trades and the financial structure of the game. Because right now, teams are doing very well. But there's not a lot of player movement. There haven't been, Giancarlo Stanton signed for a huge amount of money. There have been a few free agent signings. Some teams have hung one of their players, but there's a lot of guys out there that are still looking for the big payday. And it'll be interesting to get some thoughts from Bobby about why this is happening, and also, of course, talk a little bit about how the Giants hope to be relevant again after winning 3 World Series. They had the worst, think about this, Edward, 3 World Series in 5 years, and then they have the worst record they've ever had since coming to the West Coast in over 30 years. So it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's a crazy world we live in.
Well, if I remember correctly, didn't Bumgarner get hurt? And then
Johnny Cueto had blisters, and the offense produced about 3 runs a game, which is not going to do it.
And then Mike Morse got hurt.
Matt Moore.
No, but I mean Morse got hurt. It was a fight.
Oh, you're talking about the Giants slugging outfield. Yeah, that's right. He never was a factor. I mean, there were a lot of weird injuries. Hunter Pence got old and had some injury problems. Of course, the way he plays, he always plays, all out. Yeah. I mean, and there were a lot of injury problems. I mean, that's something you can't really control, but it was more than that.
To just keep Bumgarner off
the dirt bike.
Off the dirt bike.
Yeah. That's how he got hurt. He fell off a dirt bike and wrecked his shoulder, and that was it.
Yeah. Boys will be boys.
Yeah.
All right. This our trivia theme again is football, because we want to cover that since the playoffs are going to be finishing up here.
Some great games too. How about that Minnesota? Philadelphia?
That was awesome.
That was amazing.
All right. Don't touch that dial. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be right back.
Philadelphia, New Orleans, I should say.
What's that?
I said Philadelphia. I said Philadelphia, Minnesota. I meant New Orleans.
Yeah.
There's too many things going on. My brain can't keep track of it. Today I was thinking about somebody I know who works at the game, and he works part-time there. And I'm always talking to him in the press box. And I can't remember the guy's name. Seriously, I can't. Well, I only see him once in a while, but I mean, Rick Tittle. There we go.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, he's a character.
Boy, that Warrior game last night. First play of the game, Jordan Bell goes down.
That was tough.
And then at the end, did you see that face plant?
Yeah, that was ugly. God, that was ugly.
Did he knock a tooth out, or just?
I don't know. He's wearing a mouth guard, but that's one of the many reasons why the whole dunk thing. It's more of an aesthetic. It's like it's kind of like you want to show. It's for show. It is. It really is. I mean, I understand it. It energizes the crowd. It's
like big win or something like that.
No, you just do the basket. That's like
You couldn't.
I was that's right. For no. Yeah.
I remember
I can understand it. You're not going to get hurt. It starts dropping in. Your hand or the back of the rim or
something. I don't know. It's like I got a technical foul.
Yeah.
I
wish I could more than
He said, yeah, he texted me 20 minutes.
All right, no big deal. That's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
He's got to take care of his eyes.
Well, you know what? We'll cover the other segment then. We'll see you next Sunday.
You want to just do the last one? We'll do because we're not going to have one for the whole show anyway.
No.
Yeah.
We got a 9:45 second.
Okay. Let's just do some NFL.
Okay.
NFL playoffs and talk about Tom Brady and Minnesota with that great defense. And
Absolutely.
Jacksonville, that's a good story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not raining outside. It's just kind of drizzling.
Yeah.
I talked to my sister. She said it's pouring in Mill Valley.
Oh, really?
Well,
That's
my sister has a tendency to make things bigger than
Here we go.
Okay.
Well, welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. Now, our guest is going to be on in the next segment,
Right.
so we're going to cover this without Bobby. But just really quickly, I forgot to mention that this segment of Sports Econ 101 is sponsored by Pacific Private Money, providing mortgage investments that are currently yielding over 7.5% secured by real estate. Doesn't get any more conservative than that. Check them out at pacificprivatemoney.com. They also have a new website called privatemoneyloans.com where you can buy a piece of a deed of trust. All right, Bruce, let's talk a little football.
Yeah, we got the NFL playoffs as we speak, and I'm not sure when this show airs because it airs at different times in different locations. Armed Forces Radio, of course, over 100 stations in the United States. But I think most people listening are well aware of what is happening in the NFL playoffs with the Pittsburgh Steelers having been upset at home by the Jaguars, and that incredible Minnesota New Orleans game, and Philadelphia now taking on the Vikings for the NFC title game. I think the New England Patriots Jacksonville game, as much as I'd love to see Jacksonville give them a battle, I still am not convinced Jacksonville is that great a team. Their defense is tough. I mean, they've scored 8 touchdowns, but Edward, they gave up 40. They did give up 42 points.
Yeah. And
Ben Roethlisberger did throw 5 touchdowns against them. I'm not convinced they're going to be able to stop Tom Brady, especially in New England.
He's still got the machine going.
Well, it's not. It is Brady. He's the guy driving it, but they've got a great system there, and it's been in place for almost 20 years.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm getting at is that Bortles. How long has Bortles been around?
He's been around 4 or 5 years, but he's just been a journeyman.
Yeah.
And the thing they remind me a lot of the Baltimore Ravens. Jacksonville does, in that Baltimore back in 2000 had a great defense. I think they had 7 All-Pros that year. And Brian Billick had, I'm trying to remember, I think it was Trent Dilfer was the quarterback. He was a decent quarterback, but not a great quarterback. Kind of like Case Keenum, a journeyman, or with all due respect, Rich Gannon, who became a very good quarterback, was a journeyman. So those guys have something to prove. I'm not convinced that anybody's going to beat the Patriots this year. I know that the upsets happen, and Minnesota's got the great defense, but I was listening to some of the comments from some of the Patriot players the other day on there. I went to their website, and they're so focused, they're so buttoned down, they are so confident. It's like the Warriors, it's like the Lakers back during the Kobe days, it's like the Yankees back in the early 2000s. They are a machine. Going to be tough to stop.
Is this going to be Brady's last year? I mean, he's been around for since God was a little boy.
He doesn't seem to think it is going to be, but I mean, all the great ones have to give up sooner or later. I mean, he's got this little hand problem. The other day, he left practice, didn't talk to reporters, and they were attending to his hand, and everybody's making a big, Brady's got a hand injury. Who knows? The guy's 40 years old. He's taking a lot of hits. But he's won 5 Super Bowls. He's been to 7 Super Bowls. That's you can't discount those things. I think their defense, I'll tell you, their defense, which started the season off really slowly, been playing really well lately, the last few games. So, I mean, look at the way they embarrassed Tennessee, you knew that was going to happen. Marcus Mariota after the game said he was embarrassed. Well, don't be embarrassed. You're playing the best team in football on their home turf. And they had a whole week extra to prepare. Don't be embarrassed about it. Of course, athletes are just like the rest of us. They have pride.
Pride, sure. Well, they worked hard. I mean, they got to the playoffs. So they thought, they've got a chance.
Sure.
I mean, it would be kind of fun to see Minnesota in, just because it's going to be the home field. So
oh, my gosh. That's quite a story. Yeah. And Minnesota has not been to a Super Bowl since the 76 season. And they had been 4 in the late 60s to early 70s and lost them all with Bud Grant as the coach. So this is their first time back with Mike Zimmer and that great defense.
It's funny. I remember I was watching the Minnesota game and they showed Bud coming out like a year before. I mean, he was like 88 years old or something like that, right?
I think he's still alive.
He's still, he was in the audience, and it's like 20 degrees outside, and he's in short sleeves. And for an old guy, I mean, usually when you get old, you got to kind of.
Dude, there's a reason they last as long as they do. I remember interviewing Bud Grant years ago when I was a young reporter after the Vikings played the Raiders, and it was like talking to somebody from a different era. I mean, just a real gentleman, but there was something about him that was kind of, I don't know how to put it into words, but he just had a quality you immediately respected. You immediately were, you felt like you were in the presence of a real, for lack of a better term, a real man. This guy was, and he was a good leader. He was a terrific leader. And, the Vikings, I remember hearing stories about how during practices back in those days, and the Vikings played outdoors at the old municipal stadium, or I guess it was called the Metropolitan Stadium. They didn't allow, players to wear gloves in those days, which is kind of silly. It's kind of like,
you have to prove you're a man. You got to protect your fingers.
Yeah. I know.
He's probably the guy also who wouldn't let them have heaters. There was some coach who wouldn't let heaters. Maybe I don't want the toughening you up part doesn't make sense to me.
I think it's more psychological. I mean, you talk about summer camp and how some coaches in the old days would not let players drink water. Water makes you weak. That's absurd.
Yeah.
But,
exactly.
There's a certain truth to the idea that you can toughen people up by making the road harder.
Yeah.
And I was listening to Devin McCourty, the defensive back for the safety, I believe he is, for the Patriots, talking about how during the off season, they have workouts. Obviously, they have activities, but during the summer camps, they really go hard at it. The extra work on the hills, the extra, and Rob Gronkowski, the same way. I was listening to him talk about it. This guy is just like we're going to play one of the toughest teams in football, and we can't take anything for granted. Every play is going to be like a challenge. And, I realize that.
But you know what? That's smart, rather than mouthing off like, these guys are a bunch of wimps.
Well, no, you wouldn't. Football players just are kind of the antithesis of getting any controversy at all. Bill Belichick, you listen to his press conference, of the most boring things in the world, but it works. You can't argue with success.
Well, different sports, I guess, when they get an individual player. A lot of times in football, we're gonna blow them out.
It's the ultimate team sport, though. You gotta get your people to buy into the system, and you gotta have a great quarterback, but you gotta have.
Yeah, but don't make it public though, because then all it does is just
send
the other player, the other team, to where they say, we're going to prove a point.
No question. The bulletin board material, as they call it. But I think that's all. We in the media try to make up some stuff to make the games more interesting. But to me, all the hype and the noise and the nonsense and the whole week of buildup of these games drives me nuts. That's why I don't like going and cover. I covered 10 Super Bowls, and after about 3 days of all the hype and nonsense, you look for the features and the interesting sidelights, but the stuff that people really want to talk about, it's just noise and nonsense. Let them play ball. Let them see. That's what I love about baseball. Every day there's a game. You don't have to sit there and build it up like it's some kind of
like the pre-Super Bowl.
All the hype, like the heavyweight boxing match. Come on. I mean, I know football is the toughest sport out there. It's war. It really is. I mean, these guys walk away from the game. Some of them crippled. Many of them die young. Look at poor Dwight Clark, the former 49er, who made the great catch in the NFC title game back in '81. He's got ALS. Who knows if ALS might have, maybe he was more susceptible to it because of all the hits he took.
We got to figure it's, like baseball, you can play pretty much every day. Football, you can't play every day.
You play 140 games in the pros. That's a lot. You think add on to that maybe another 70 or 80 in college and 60 or 70 in high school. That's about 220 games of football, and not to mention all the hard-hitting practices. 3 or 4 times that number. Yep. So there's a reason why these guys walk away all banged up.
All right, we're going to cut to a commercial break where we're going to start asking our trivia questions. Talking football here.
Talking football.
In 1990, who took over as quarterback for the Giants when Phil Simms got hurt?
Oh, that's a good one.
All right.
Yeah.
That's our trivia question. You should email edward@sportsecon101.com. See if you know the answer to this question. In 1990, who took over as quarterback for the Giants when Phil Simms got hurt? All right. And don't touch that dial. We're going to see if Bobby Evans is available for us when we come back.
Hopefully he is.
Text him, see if he's available. So I did not ride the motorcycle today.
Good
Probably
idea.
smart, yeah.
Well, you're not that far from your house.
No, but I have to go up to the auto.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. I'm expecting another Mountain View hotel certificate.
Oh, great, yeah. Because the ones we have are, they expired. And we never used them.
Oh.
Yeah, but it's okay. It's not a big deal. Yeah, Colette really likes that place.
Good.
It's nice. And Molly does too. It's nice.
Molly likes the pool.
Yeah, Molly likes the pool. Colette likes the town.
Yeah, oh yeah.
It's a nice little town. There's not a lot to it, but it's fun. It's a neat little place.
Well, it survived.
Yeah, boy.
Have you been up there at all?
Not since. Well, we did go up to Hillsborough for one night. The night my mom. It was weird. It was the day my mom died. We had planned to go up there, and at the same time, my daughter somehow got a hold of my phone. I'm not sure how it happened, but it was completely deactivated. I couldn't use it. And I went to.
What day was that?
15th of December. And so I went to Xfinity, and they tried to help me, and they couldn't do it, so they put me on the phone with somebody from Apple. And I was making progress. I was talking to some guy in Ohio, and then their phone lines, Xfinity phone lines at the store up here in Nevada, went kablooey. So I had to go to Apple about 3 days later and deal with the craziness of getting close. He says we're almost there.
All right, I'm gonna hit the bathroom.
Yeah. No worries. Poor Bobby.
No, he's a good guy.
He is a good guy. Yeah. All right. Okay.
Well, while we're waiting, we can record our last segment.
Yeah. Today they're introducing Longoria's having his press conference today.
Oh, okay.
All right. Let's see.
Okay, so I'm going to do our last segment, so you don't know what the question is. So I'll
No,
ask
that's okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
All right. Well, welcome back to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. This is the last time for today. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. Here was our third and final trivia question. In 2010, which team made the playoffs with a losing record?
Oh my goodness. I should know that one. It
Should
was
know
fairly
this one.
recent. It's funny, I remember what happened in 1960 back
Yeah.
then. What happened 6 years ago. I'm drawing a
Bill
blank.
Mazeroski hit the home run for the
Yeah,
Pulsars.
that's right. Yeah, 1960 beat the Yankees.
That's right. Game 7. The Seattle Seahawks. They won their division.
Oh, you're talking
7-9.
NFL?
Yeah.
Okay, for some reason I thought they said Major League Baseball.
Oh, no.
I'm really having a brain fart today.
Well, because Bobby was on our show.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
We were talking baseball.
Yeah.
Okay, now,
Oh, yeah,
now if
that's
I
right.
ask you, will you remember?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I will. Seattle Seahawks. Oh, they've had a tough time lately. They've changed. When they missed the playoffs this last year, they had a bunch of injuries to their defense. Pete Carroll shook things up. He's brought Ken Norton Jr. back as his defensive coordinator.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, that's kind of neat.
That'll work.
Or a linebacker. Actually, linebacker. I'm not sure. I think no,
Probably.
defensive coordinator. Defensive
really?
coordinator.
Okay.
Yeah, he was fired as the Raiders' defensive coordinator. The Niners hired him as a linebacker coach,
Yeah.
but then the Niners let him walk because there was a great opportunity to go back to Seattle and be a defensive coordinator.
There you go.
So that was magnanimous of Kyle Shanahan,
Very
good
good.
Niners coach.
All right, we're going to cut out for today. Here's our thoughts for the day. Nobody can go back and start a new beginning, but anyone can start today and make a new ending.
I like that one.
And life is a song. Love the music. I always try to come up with these ones that I know are philosophically
And yet uplifting.
uplifting.
There
Exactly.
you go.
Yeah.
Your sunny personality. I like that. It's so easy to be negative. It's just
it is.
it's a common quality among human beings to just be cynical and negative. I hate to say it.
5% of what happens to you, 95% of how you react to it.
And my wife always tells me that you create your own weather system. Unless you got a mood disorder, you create your own weather system.
Okay, that's a good way of putting it too.
Yeah.
All right, tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and asking more sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Good night, America.
So long.
All right. So Bobby said 2 minutes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so this is segment 5.
So how's Darren doing over at the Sports Byline? In there?
Yeah.
Ron Barr's lucky to have him. He does all the work.
I don't know how they make any money, really.
They don't.
I don't know.
I mean, they do, but they don't. They make enough. They make enough to get by. When ESPN came along, that was the beginning of the end for them. They lost probably 70% or 80% of their stations. And this is the problem when you have one big company that runs the roost. It just, it's this whole thing with net neutrality now, trying to turn back. Big companies like AT&T and Xfinity are going to raise the rates. So this is why I stay off the computer. I try not to spend too much time on it.
Oh, yeah. No, it's the same thing like reading the paper and stuff.
I know. I mean, the paper's more expensive now, and there's less news in it than ever before. It's all wire copy.
Yeah.
Although I will say, Associated Press is still the best place to get news. It's like CBS, radio, which I listen to our guys that we have at our station. It's amazing. Okay, ready. All right, let's give it a buzz. Here we go.
Hello, Bobby, Edward, and Bruce. How are you?
Very good. How are you guys?
Good. Getting reading glasses or vision distance glasses?
Just my annual checkup. But I a little family history of glaucoma.
Oh, not good.
And but I have low pressure, so I'm in good spot. So I think I've got my mom's eyes so far, so that's a good thing here. And they do the annual checks for reading glasses. I just celebrated my 49th birthday. Wednesday, and so
Wait, when was your birthday?
it was Monday.
And my birthday was yesterday.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
My wife's coming up next week, so yeah. January.
A lot of January birthdays, yeah. But I'm almost a decade older than you, my friend.
Yeah. I'm almost 2 decades older than you.
Yeah.
Bobby is, I've always said, when I remember first meeting Bobby, I think it was 1997 was when you started with Jets, or was it 96, Bobby?
94 was my
94?
Wow.
Holy cripe. That's 23 years ago.
You were just a young pup then.
Yeah.
I started with the Giants the day after my 25th birthday.
Wow.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Wow. That's great.
But yeah, so they just told me that it looks like I've got maybe another year before reading glasses, maybe more. We'll see.
Yeah, I got to get some. I'm about 66 here, and my vision has been pretty good, but I had the LASIK surgery. Now I can't read as well unless it's big print. So spend too much. I try not to look at the computer too much.
They say men have an advantage because we have longer arms.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah,
That is
in fact,
true.
I'm gonna. I think I told you I'm gonna be at spring training this year finally.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, bringing my son on March 9th.
Yeah.
I think that's what
Okay.
it is.
All right.
See if you're available. Maybe do dinner or something.
All right.
Let's do it for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, you'll like my son. He's a good guy. Okay, here we go. Let's get right on. Well, welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. Here was our first trivia question. In 1990, who took over as quarterback for the Giants when Phil Simms got hurt?
So before we get to our guest, I remember that one. It's Jeff Hostetler,
Yes, very
who
good.
has a Bay Area connection. Not only did he quarterback the Giants that year, and they won it, but they beat the 49ers. They dethroned the 49ers at Candlestick. I was covering that game. And then later, in 1994, he ended up with the Raiders. The Raiders moved to Oakland. They started the season 8-2. It looked like they were going great, and they lost the last 6 games in a row. And his tenure with the Raiders was pretty short-lived after that.
Yeah, you're not going to hit the playoffs too often with that kind of record.
Yeah.
All right, why don't you reintroduce our guest?
Yeah, Bobby Evans, the general manager of the Giants, is joining us. And I just was struck by the fact that Bobby is not quite 50 years old. He's been with the organization half his life. As a matter of fact, you joined the Giants. What was it during the strike here, Bobby? Was it 1994?
Yeah, it was January '94. So we lived through the strike together. In August that year, all the way through the postseason. So it was my first year with the Giants. It was crazy.
And of course, now you've got a team that is coming off a very, very difficult year, but there are a lot of good things happening this offseason. Edward and I want to talk to you a little bit about what's going on in baseball, but we got to ask you, first of all, the moves the Giants have made. You've only made 2 of them, but they are pretty significant. You brought in 2 pretty good ball players. Tell us a little bit about the guys you brought in.
Well, as we looked at our offseason, we met with our scouts and our staff, and Brian and I and both, Larry Bear. We just looked clearly at the need to deepen our lineup, the need to move our outfield defense, and there's been so many options out there. It's great to come to resting points on some of these things, and for us with the chance to get a Gold Glove defender in Evan Longoria, controllable for the next 5 years, albeit again not taking any away from where we've been at third base. He just brings another element to our strong defense in the infield. And really is a middle of the order hitter, which is what you want when you're talking about third base. And so then we had McCutcheon the other day, of course, for right field. For us, which just gives again another bat in the middle of the order where it protects Buster and really defends us, for Belt and and Crawford. And so our sense of responsibility now is to focus in center field, but we feel like we're better and we've got to continue to get better, and that's gives us another month before spring training starts, so we'll keep working on things.
Yeah, I think just my own 2 cents. I love Andrew McCutcheon. I think it was a great trade. In football, you call someone like me an armchair quarterback. What do you call it in baseball? An armchair pitcher, or armchair manager. But no, that was a great trade. He's obviously offense and defense, but he just seems like a really good human being.
Yes. He is impressive. Clearly a leader in the community in Pittsburgh, a leader in their clubhouse, and a presence in their lineup, presence defensively, for a good number of years, a 5-time All-Star. I mean, just a great person, and we're looking forward to having him in the mix that both Evan and McCutcheon will bring into our clubhouse.
So now, what happens when, if I understand it correctly, he has just a 1-year contract?
Yeah, he'll be on the final year of a pretty significant multi-year deal, and this was something Pirates talked about even a year ago about possibly trading him with 2 years left, and this was obviously the final year, and so it gives us an opportunity to assess whether this is a more long-term fit for us. As for him, I think it'll be a great fit for us this year, and time will tell.
I got to ask you, Bobby. Obviously, and we're talking to Bobby Evans, general manager of the San Francisco Giants. The Giants are in a good position. They're one of the teams that can afford. You're not spending money like a drunken sailor, like the New York Yankees may with Giancarlo Stanton, but you guys can afford to bring in some big name players. Then there are teams that are sort of in a holding pattern and they're trying to tread water. Pittsburgh is one of them. They traded away Garrett Cole and now McCutcheon. Tampa Bay is another one. They traded Longoria to you guys. The Oakland A's just across the bay. Another one. A couple of years ago, Josh Donaldson. Now Josh Donaldson signs a 1-year, $23 million deal with Toronto. I got to ask you, what is going on with baseball right now? I know that every year is kind of different, but there's a lot of players out there that are good players that are not being signed. I'm looking at you, Darvish, and J.D. Martinez, among others. I mean, what's the hesitancy of teams right now? Is it because of the big numbers? I mean, Giancarlo Stanton's contract maybe threw everybody out of whack.
Well, I do think that there's some reassessment of value towards the younger player, towards the more controllable player, and I think at some level there's maybe a overcorrection of value being placed on the younger player. Time will tell. I think that ultimately the better players on the market are going to get their years of dollars. I think that maybe this will be more suffering for more mid-market guys, but I still think that there's a lot of unanswered questions here. I mean, I think that we only had so many needs, but we've never had so many options via trade. I mean, I was talking with Brian and my staff, and I can't remember when we've had so many trade discussions in the winter. It's almost like the trade deadline multiplied because the options are unending, and yet we still have a free agent market. So I think the combination of both those markets being active together do bring down the ask, and they do bring down the dollars and years on free agents.
I was going to ask you about Hunter Pence, because for some reason, he's reminding me, and you'll have to kind of back this up if this is true. He's reminding me of someone like Andre Iguodala, who is just like a team player. McCutcheon coming in is Pence is probably going to have to change positions, right?
Right. Pence will move to left field, and that will be an adjustment for him. We don't take that lightly, but yeah, I mean, ultimately, Hunter wants to do what he can to help us. He's in the final year of his contract, and I don't anticipate wanting to slow down if he continue to play.
He's a fun player to watch too, and granted, he's winding down. The way he plays, Bobby, so unconventional. I mean, the lunges and the crazy plays in the outfield, and the way he swings the bat. I mean, I've never seen a player quite like Hunter Pence. Have you?
No, I mean, incredibly strong, athletic, extremely dedicated, hardworking, has a presence, in our clubhouse, and people look to him. And again, this is a max effort, all effort guy, and it shows in some of the success he's had, consistency that he's had. And again, you bring in an Evan Longoria and a McCutcheon. I mean, they remind me of Hunter in the sense that they're both are 150, 155 games a year type guys. That's very much what Hunter was. And I think that getting him healthy last season, hopefully more consistent this season, will be an added plus for him.
And who else can hit the ball 3 times on one bat?
That's right.
I don't know.
Well, and also, we remember 2012 when you guys were down 2-0 in the first round of the playoffs going to Cincinnati, and he gave that great speech in the dugout or in the clubhouse, I guess it was, and who knows how much impetus that had, but it certainly didn't hurt. And you guys went on and won from that point on, I don't think you lost too many games with the exception of a few of the Cardinals.
Yeah. Well, we got down again. Yeah, you're right. The Cardinals, we got down 3-1, and that didn't look too good. And yet the guys fought back. And, you want guys that are going to fight to the end. I feel like that's the group of guys we've had. That's the kind of group of guys we've added, and we know we've got a lot of work to do. But we're also to a busy off season and trying to continue to improve it.
And what are you going to do to keep Bumgarner off the dirt bikes?
Well, I mean, I can assure you his mindset is very different. Having been through that, I mean, it was very difficult for him and his family, and I think professionally, just a difficult pill to swallow. But at the end of the day, he took his medicine and fought his way back. Having a successful normal off season right now.
Okay.
Hopefully no dirt bikes involved.
Yeah, I'm sorry, just to follow up with that.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, it's like, what were you going through, Bobby, when you find out this accident happens? I mean, obviously it's a tragedy for him, but like from just hearing from your perspective, what goes through your mind at that time?
Well, of course, we're coming off of the loss of very young ball players to accidents, one in Florida and one or two in the Dominican. And so my immediate thought goes toward preservation of his life. We're very thankful that he survived and that he's going to be okay. I think that baseball definitely came second to mind because, we think a lot of Madison and just the thought of having that kind of accident, the kind of things that can happen. There was more to be thankful for than there was to be concerned about, and that's kind of where my mind is heart went.
Okay, hey Bobby, can you stay with us for just one more quick segment?
Sure.
Okay, great. All right, we're going to cut to our second trivia question. We're talking football here, since again we're getting closer to the.
I mentioned Bobby's a football fan. Aren't you, Bobby? You like the NFL playoffs?
Oh, I did. It's a great time of year.
Oh yeah. Sure. All right, well, let's see if you know this question. Who led the NFL in passing yards for the 2010 season? Okay, now I'm going to first see if you know it, and if you don't, then I'm going to give you 4 choices.
Okay.
Let's see, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4 choices.
Okay.
When we come back, all right?
Sounds good.
Actually, I'll give them to you now, and you can think about it during the break. Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Phil Rivers, or Drew Brees. Okay, those are the 4 choices.
4 Hall of Fame quarterbacks. All 4. They're all going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Really?
I think so. Phil Rivers may.
Tom Brady? No, okay, I'm just kidding you. All right.
Phil Rivers may be a stretch, but he's put up some great numbers.
All right, don't touch that dial. Sports Econ 101 will be right back. We always like to have fun here.
All right.
That's great.
Is it raining over there in the city, Bobby?
Yeah, it's coming down a little bit. It's wet today.
I wish it would just. I wish we'd just get come down, like Seattle or. They say that there's going to be a terrible series of storms up in the mountains between Tahoe and the North Sierra. I was listening on the news last night on the way home from doing my air shift, and they said that 2 feet of snow is supposed to come down and winds up to 80 to 90 miles an hour in the highest elevations. So
my daughter's in Tulane right now. In New Orleans, they had to cancel classes. I think it's the ice.
Well, the weather has just been insane. Bobby, did you hear about what happened to Dale Earnhardt yesterday?
Yeah.
So he's driving along this road, this country road in North Carolina, runs off the road and hits a tree. He's okay. And I guess there were 2 other cars involved. So he texted, he said, I center punched a pine tree. But everything was fine. He said, he tweeted out, don't get on the roads right now. It's really scary. But, yeah, I mean, we sort of take it for granted, our weather out here.
It's snowy out there. Huh?
Oh my God, there's been some horrible storms back east. It's been off and on. Sort of in the mid-south regions around North Carolina, South Carolina, and down towards the Gulf. I mean, it's just been crazy. This weather that we've been having the last 7-8 years.
Yeah, it is.
Nuts.
All right, here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. One more time, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. Here's our second trivia question. Who led the NFL in passing for the 2010 season? Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Phil Rivers, or Drew Brees?
Well, I know Bobby's a big NFL fan. I'm going to let him take a guess. I have an idea, but I don't know. Go ahead, Bobby. You want to?
Well, it'd be a complete guess on my part. And if I were going to guess the better of the 4 choices, I would obviously guess Tom Brady, but just because Manning obviously has got a big game back then, I'm going to put Manning on that list.
I'm going to pick Drew Brees.
Phil Rivers.
Oh my gosh, we were both wrong. And I said Philip Rivers was a stretch. Philip Rivers is. Al Davis used to say, that we'll never lose to the Chargers as long as Philip Rivers is.
Really? Is that what he said?
Al Davis was, he was a great. But sometimes, especially towards the end of his life, I hate to say this, he made some big mistakes. Marcus Russell.
Oh yeah, really.
But the Raiders are on the right track now, I think.
All right, so we are privileged to have Bobby Evans, the general manager of the Giants, with us. And Bobby, I want to ask
San Francisco Giants.
Oh yeah, that's right. Not the New York Giants.
That's right.
So, Bobby, quick question for you. So, last year obviously was kind of a disaster season. At what point do you look at the season and just sort of kind of throw up your hands and say, okay, we just have to kind of focus on next year?
Well, I talk about the fact that in many ways this has been one of our longest off seasons, going back to sometime in mid-June. It was a very difficult year, and I think we began realizing, in June that we, post-draft, that we really needed to figure out how to approach the deadline differently, and then ultimately approach the upcoming off season. And of course, our guys, we never give up on them. We never do give up on them, but you see the writing on the wall and the struggles. So we were really at a low point at that juncture, and that is that we're built with the quality of guys and the quality of talent to win now, and when you're not winning, you do have to rethink things, and again, you can't come back with the same group and the same lineup and have everything the same and expect different results. You got to go out and make investments that will hopefully be eventful and impactful on the results for next year.
Well, that's the thing is, do you look just one season ahead, or do you look a couple of years down the road?
We always look, multiple years ahead. I mean, but our focus, of course, at the moment is on 2008. If you get too focused on beyond that, then you may miss out on opportunities that affect you more immediately. And I think that's how we've approached it, is to spend more time focused on what's going to happen immediately, and then we'll address the next year. But we're always mindful of it.
I got to ask you about your mentor, Brian Sabian, who was general manager for many, many years and still is head of baseball operations, although you are the general manager. How do you guys work together now? How does that work? Because Brian is not as actively involved as he used to be, although he's there all the time. It's almost like having an older brother that sort of pushes you into the job that he had, and yet he's still helping you out. I mean, how has that worked out, Bobby? Because you guys have been together now for a number of years.
Well, I think that's what makes it easy, is the fact that it's not just Brian and I. I mean, I think that our whole staff. I mean, we've been together for a long time, and I think that makes things much more organic and manageable from a day-to-day operation standpoint. And Brian, even in my serving as the assistant GM, was very generous with authority and responsibility and influence. And so it was not a difficult transition to new titles and expanded roles, but I think it's really reflection on his past and current leadership style, and really the fact that we all gel so well together and have for so long, and we've been through so many things, ups and downs over the course of almost 25 years.
And would he put it upon you to let a player know he was going to get traded, or would he take that responsibility?
Going back to forever. I mean, that's I've been calling, let guys know they've been called up. Going back to, I was joking with Sean Estes about I was the phone call he got called up, and that's been
really well. That's a great phone call to make.
Yeah,
I mean, you're excited to be able to make that phone call. It's the one of gee, I'm sorry, we got to cut you.
Well, we have those too. I mean, knowing guys they've been traded, knowing those guys they've been sent down, knowing guys that they're been released. I mean, those are, but that's again Ryan's style going back the early '90s.
You talk about Sean Estes, one of the most likable guys I've ever run into in the clubhouse. What was one of the toughest cuts you had to make, Bobby, where you had to call somebody if you really liked the guy, he was a good player and maybe not a household name, but somebody that meant a lot to the organization, and how difficult was it that day?
No, those are always tough. I mean, they're never easy. Never easy. I don't care how long you've known them. I mean, these guys, blood, sweat, and tears to try to help make the organization better and stronger. And I don't care if you had them for just one season or if you had them for 10 or 15 seasons. It's always hard. I mean, I think that sometimes the harder calls are just telling a player that he's not going to be on the postseason roster. That's a tough conversation. So I think that I don't look at any one of them as any more difficult than the other. But there's never an easy way to tell a guy he's been traded or he's not coming back or that you're in the case of the manager often having to tell him that he's going to take a bench role. And those are things we do together. I mean, along with Brian and Boach, myself, we over the years try to make sure that players are not the last to know in terms of where they stand. And our communication level has to be high because that's really the way you serve your players. Is you're honest with them and straightforward.
I guess some of the players, and I'm just guessing now, depending upon their temperament, some will try to plead their case with you, and some will just kind of take it in stride. And is that kind of how it is?
Oh yeah, I mean every case is different. I mean, in some cases, when a player might get blindsided, it's maybe more defensive or more more or less challenged to accept it. But a lot of times these guys know the difficulties of the decisions that we're facing, and in many ways can see it coming. And yeah, they may not agree with it, but they understand it.
Hey, before we let you go, and this is a national audience that's listening. We got the Armed Forces Radio. We got stations all over the country. A lot of people that are listening to this are not living on the West Coast, so they'd like to know your thoughts, perhaps, on who you think are going to be some of the favorites this year. I mean, other than the obvious, Houston looks like they've strengthened their situation. They've got a good young team. The Dodgers, of course, are going to be back. The Yankees have added Giancarlo Stanton, among other people. I mean, those are the obvious picks. But do you see any other teams, Bobby, that like in Arizona or some of these
Colorado.
teams, or Colorado? Both of those teams were in the playoffs last year as wild cards. How do you see this season, just from the standpoint of preseason prognosticator? That's not your job, I know, but you're more in tune to this than those of us out here are, because you're living it every day.
Well, again, I think our focus, as we look at our division, we never have an easy time in our division, but I only think it's just getting harder. San Diego is not necessarily trying to win right now, but they're getting to a point where they've got some pretty good pitching depth, lineup, and I think that the Rockies and D-backs last year spoke for themselves with the way they performed. The Phillies are investing in their club. They're getting younger and stronger. Milwaukee, made a decent run before they got knocked out. I think they're going to try to, compete more within their division. St. Louis, it didn't make the playoffs, but they've gotten better this winter. And you never count them out anyway, but much less after they've done what they've done to improve. I think Oakland's, they're younger, but they're not. I don't ever underestimate Vinny Forrest and Billy Beane trying to put himself in a position with the addition of Piscotty and some other moves to get themselves, to give a run in their division. And I think the Angels are underestimated in terms of the key guys they have. They just really have to look at their pitching and find out ways to get stronger. So it's going to be an interesting year. I mean, the Red Sox are fighting hard to catch up to those Yankees. I mean, Tampa and Toronto, really, going to have a hard time, but again, Baltimore as well. So the East won't be quite as interesting because it's probably a two-team race back there.
Well, see, that's what I was going to get at, is that when you're speaking as the manager or general manager, and you got to think that some of these other teams, they know the same thing. It's like, well, we probably really don't have much of a shot. I'm wondering if the players are thinking the same thing. How much of it is suddenly less of a team sport for them versus, I got to get my own numbers up because I want to get traded or that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, I mean that's part of the mental gymnastics that the players have to go through, and our players hadn't been through that in a while, and I think that made the year even that much more challenging because we knew even after the end of April that we had an uphill climb and we were without Bumgarner and we were struggling, and so I think that the gymnastics that guys have to go through is understanding You know, if you're an American League East team and you're not on the Red Sox, you've got to somehow, you know, still focus and still try to do your best, and that's where the manager comes in, and general manager, and you know, the coaching staff to try to keep guys, you know, focused on what the goal is for the day, and not get too focused on yourself, and still be team goal oriented.
How much longer is Bruce Bochy going to manage with you guys, Bobby? Is there a time limit? Because I know Boch is close to my age. He's in his early 60s. He's had some heart issues, but he's a tough dude. I mean, that guy is, and he's one of the most likable people and one of the smartest managers around. And you got to give him his due. 3 World Series rings. Can he be doing this for a few more years?
Yeah, I think Bruce Bochy is very hungry. I think you know, coming through the health challenges, you know, I think you know renewed his determination to, you know, to continue to lengthen his career and his influence. And I wouldn't put any time period on Bochy right now. I think that the hope is as long as he enjoys it, which I can't see going away anytime soon.
Yeah.
And so if the Giants make it to the World Series with Boston, who are you going to root for?
Yeah, I tell you, but I keep forgetting, Bobby, you grew up back east, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah.
You notice he was silent during
yes,
the
question? Very diplomatic. I like it.
Well, Bobby, thanks again for joining us on Sports Econ 101. And hopefully during the season, if you have any time, we'd love to have you back on.
Always.
Thanks so much, Bobby. Always a pleasure, and good luck this year.
Thank you.
All right. Bobby Evans, general manager of the San Francisco Giants. Yeah, you know, Bobby is one of those, he's a baseball lifer. He mentioned at the top of our interview, he started with the Giants organization just shy of his 25th birthday.
Yeah.
It seems like it was just yesterday when the strike hit, because I remember that changed baseball forever.
Oh, yeah.
We had the wild card after that. You had, you know, a much different kind of a setup. It took about 3 years for baseball to really come back.
And yeah, I was going to say, it took me personally about 3 years to finally get back into it.
Well, you know what hurt here in the Bay Area is our 2 teams just went in the tank in 95 and 96, and that didn't help either.
Especially in 94, Matt Williams was on a tear.
He was on the way to winning, to breaking the baseball home run record. Yeah, and then the strike hits, and boom, there goes that.
I thought it was.
Matt Williams, by the way, is going to be coaching third base with the A's.
That's
year.
right. He was on our show a few weeks ago.
That's right, yeah.
I found it very interesting that Bobby didn't answer the question who he was going to root for.
Well, yeah, you got to be diplomatic.
Of course, you got to root for his,
of course.
His employer.
Yeah.
Okay, third trivia question. In 2010, which team made the playoffs with a losing record? All right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, that's right. That's our trivia question.
Okay.
When we come back, we're going to answer that.
You're talking about football.
We're talking about football.
Okay.
When we come back, we're going to answer that question and do our thoughts of the day. Don't touch that dial. Sports Econ 101 will give you right back.
Kind of a convoluted show today.
Yeah,
that worked out well.
Yeah, it did.
Said Bobby. Bobby's
Yeah, he really is.